Welcome to Caribbean Focus. Caribbean Focus is the community voice of Medgar Evers College, the weekly radio program highlighting Caribbean educational, cultural, and social affairs, airing on WNYE 91.5 FM. And we are streaming live on Facebook at Caribbean Focus CF and YouTube. I am your host, Hermina Marcellin. Today, we are honored to host a son of the Caribbean and a dedicated community leader, Dr. Kwesi W. Blackman, born in Georgetown, Guyana, and raised right here in Flatbush, Brooklyn. Dr. Blackman is a veteran, a physician, and a champion for healthcare diversity. I would like to welcome Dr. Blackman to Caribbean Focus.
Thank you. Thank you for
You,
having me.
you are most welcome. And as we were discussing, um, this was again a long time in the making, and I'm so pleased that we're finally able to see it through.
Definitely.
Thank you. Let's start with starting from your roots, your service and education. You were born in Guyana but raised in Flatbush. Graduated from Clara Barton High School. As a matter of fact, I attended Prospect Heights High School, so in the neighborhood. How did growing up in such a vibrant Caribbean hub influence your drive to serve the community?
You glitched out there for a second. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. How did growing up in such a vibrant Caribbean hub influence your drive to serve the community? And are you're hearing me clearly now?
Yes, yes, I'm hearing you clearly. It just the internet glitched out for a second.
Okay.
Growing up in Flatbush was an amazing experience. Coming from Guyana, I was born in Guyana, came here in 1989, uh, and I came at a very young age. Came at 5 years old, so I was already I had the Guyanese accent. I learned how to speak in Guyana. I had the Guyanese accents, and it was difficult for me to adjust to the schools that my mother put me in at first. I was in a church school, and I was having difficulties adjusting to the community, my language, even though I spoke English. A lot of people didn't understand me until she put me in public school. I went to PS 249 on Caton Avenue, and that really helped me mingle with other Caribbean children, the kids in my neighborhood I played with. Uh, Brooklyn is a community, or was a community back then. Everyone looked out for each other. It was very diverse. I got to learn different cultures. The Dominicans lived around down the block from me. The Panamanians, the Grenadians, the Trinidadians, the Haitians. A lot of Haitians in Flatbush. So that culture, that community, really helped inspire me. You know, just to learn the different cultures, the diversity of life. And Brooklyn is a very special place, and it's always been like that for me. And I hope it remains that to this day.
And you actually furthered this commitment into the military service. Tell me about this switch, serving as a field artillery sergeant in the 10th Mountain Division and with having two deployments in Iraq. Could you please talk about this, can I say, drastic shift um, from the community into military service?
Definitely. So I did very well and then well, I didn't do so well in high school. I went to Clara Barton High School. I got left back in the ninth grade because my focus wasn't there in academics. I got distracted by a lot of things. So I didn't do very well. I always wanted to be a doctor. I went to IS2 in on Parkside Avenue here in Flatbush, and I remember in seventh grade, I fell in love with science. I fell in love with biology, and when I used to look at this show called on the Learning Channel called The Doctors. No, it was called The Operation, and it showed doctors performing surgeries, and I loved it so much. Then high school, I took a left turn and started not doing so well. It wasn't until I got left back, one of my guidance counselors called me in our office and said, if you keep on going on this track, you're not going to be able to graduate on time. And that scared me.
Hmm.
So I started taking night classes at the Erasmus, Saturday classes at Prospect Heights High School, and summer classes at Clara Barton. And I caught back up and I graduated high school on time. However, colleges take your 11th grade grades and not your 12th grade grades. So I didn't get accepted to any colleges. It was heartbreaking for me. I'm not gonna. I don't think I didn't. My confidence dropped. I didn't think I was smart enough to become a doctor. So I was sitting on the couch one day, and I saw a commercial for the New York National Guard, and they said it was going to pay for college. You know, pay and give you money. And I said, oh, and there was a bonus involved. So I said, wow, that's great. I can get money to go to college because my family didn't have the money. Even if I did get into college, my family didn't have the funding to send me. So I went into the recruiter station, and they told me I had to take a test. I took a test and I did very well, but my recruiters didn't tell me I did very well on the test. And they offered me different jobs. I didn't know they had like medical jobs in the military. I didn't know anything. My recruiter didn't educate me on these topics. So I told the recruiter, I was a 17-year-old kid, and I was in a room with a sergeant first class, very high ranking guy in the military. And I told him I want a job with a big bonus. So they offered me infantry, and I knew what an infantryman was. And then he offered me, I said, no, I don't want to do that. Then he said, what about field artillery? I said, what does that mean? He said, you'll sit in the office and people come to you to get ammo. I said, oh, that seems great. And I'm going to get $18,000 signing bonus for that? He said, yeah. So as a 17-year-old kid, $18,000 was a lot of money to me, and I jumped on it. And then he offered me a station of choice. So I wanted to stay home. I want to stay near New York. And he said, well, there's a military base in upstate New York called Fort Drum, New York. Later on, I found out field artillery is the number one is a combat specialty, and is first to deploy to military to combat. And then Fort Drum is one of the first places to be deployed in times of war. And on my first day in the Army, which was September 11, 2001,
Hmm.
war started. So we went to war. My two deployments. On my second deployment, I rose very quickly in rank. I became a sergeant at the age of 20. I sat down. I started looking around at the different people around me, different sergeants, higher leaders, and some of them were very happy with their choice. Some of them loved what they were doing, and you could feel it in them that they loved what they were doing. But you can see the ones that didn't, and you can see that they made the wrong. They didn't make a decision that they were stuck in the military, and I didn't want that to be me. So I sat down. I thought, what did I always want to be in my life? What did I always want to do in my life? And I want to be a physician. I want to be a doctor. And when I told my mentors that, they told me I was too high ranking and I wouldn't be able to apply to that. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Oh, it's gone. They told me that I couldn't switch jobs in the military. So I told them I'm gonna get out. And I remember standing in Iraq, and my mentors asked me, "Get out? What are you gonna do when you get out?" I said, "I don't know. Maybe I can become a doctor." And then one of my mentors said, "Become a doctor? Do you know what it takes to become a doctor?" I
Wow.
said, I remember telling him, looking in my eyes, I was so angry. I said, I don't know, but I'm adapting. I'm going to adapt and overcome. That's what you taught me. And that's where my journey began. And that's why I made a leap of faith. I did save up a lot of money when I was in Iraq, and I was going to figure it out.
And figuring out you did, because as we go down your academic path, you started at Kingsborough Community College before moving on to Northeastern and Howard. Not, I'm sorry, Northeastern and Howard University. Again, speaking on this idea of making everything possible, or making it possible for you to pursue whatever is in your heart and to pursue your dream. Why was the community college a foundation, and using it as a foundation, why was that so important for your journey into medicine?
So after I got out of the army in 2005, I came back to Brooklyn. I got an apartment, and I need to decide where I'm going to start. I looked into Kingsborough Community College, and I, it was a great decision that I made to start Kingsborough because it helped me reintegrate and back into civilian life.
Mhm.
And because Kingsborough is a community college, it had not a lot of non-traditional students. Not everyone was 18 now starting college. They had a lot of elderly people coming back, non-traditional students. I was a veteran, so it helped me adapt and readjust to civilian life a lot easier. And the staff and the faculty at Kingsborough were very supportive. The education was top notch. Actually, when I started Kingsborough, I had to take remedial math, remedial English, and remedial writing. So that was a hit to my confidence. I thought I was good. So I had to take all these remedial classes, and it helped strengthen me from my academic pursuits in the future.
And again, you speak so much of the challenges that you encountered, and especially during your academic journey. And I think that speaks to many of our listeners, many of our also young listeners who may be encountering some sort of setback. And you become a testament to this perseverance. And despite all of these challenges, you were able to overcome.
Definitely, life is challenging in general. Growing up in New York is challenging. Uh, what I would tell people that are struggling is everything's a challenge. Everyone have difficulties. Some face difficulties that you don't face. Is the what makes you or breaks you is how you look at these challenges. Is it a challenge as something that's unstoppable that's going to stop me in my tracks and not help me move forward? Is something I can overcome? How do I get through this challenge?
Mm.
And do I need to ask for help? A lot of people don't like to ask for help because in our community is something we don't want to burden other people with our problems or things like that. Luckily, Kingsborough, I remember going to the tutoring sessions at the library to help me with math. And then after that, and after I was tutored and I did well, I came back and I started tutoring others. So there's always a way to get through a challenge. It's not if you look at it as a challenge to overcome, you'll be able to move forward a lot smoother.
And I'm looking at your background with the image of one person reaching back and helping the other, which explicitly describes what you just mentioned, of you being going to the tutors to get assistance, and you in turn becoming a tutor to help others. So this image clearly depicts your character and
So
personalities.
that's actually the logo from our company.
Okay, great. So we're going to
Yeah,
get there
we
as
got
we
the
segue into your as we segue into healthcare, business, and advocacy, and you holding an MBA in addition to your medical doctorate. Now that you do have the job and you are a doctor, how does your business background change the way you view patient care and the healthcare system?
so while at Howard University College of Medicine, I had really good mentors. Two of my mentors that really stuck out is Dr. Robert DeWitty and Dr. Anthony Ebe. So these two physicians were very pivotal in my journey, and both of them always pushed that it's great to be a good doctor. It's be very knowledgeable in your medical clinical skills, but also remember medicine's a business, and if you don't properly manage that business, you can't help anyone, right? So that really stuck with me, and they also pushed me to get my MBA, which I embraced. And when I had some time, I actually went to Long Island University in the Brooklyn campus to get my MBA. It helps me view things through a different lens. Uh, Medicine is very emotional, very you have to empathize with the patients, but from a business standpoint, there's a lot of things that you have to take into account. For example, I saw when I was doing my medical training at Kings County Hospital, a lot of my fellow residents weren't from Brooklyn.
Mm.
They didn't really care about the community as much as I did, and they would say things and do things, not knowing I was from Brooklyn, not knowing I was from this exact same community. And Brooklyn is you can get the best training in Brooklyn. Once you're training in New York and Brooklyn, you can go anywhere in the country and do very well. But a lot of these people, they come to Brooklyn, they come to New York, get this training, and as soon as they finish, they leave. They don't have a connection to the community. Some people look at that and say that's a bad thing. I think of it as what is the real issue? The issue is a human resources problem. And I got that from my MBA training. Why aren't more doctors staying here in Brooklyn and after they train? Because they're not from here, because they don't really care about the community. So how do we change this? How do we fix this? We fix this by there's a lot of intelligent young people in our community that just don't know the path. They don't know the way. They don't know how to become a doctor. I stumbled my way through this whole process, literally. So how do we increase the amount of position students here in Brooklyn that think and feel that they can aspire to become a physician, and how do we guide them through that steps? And that ultimately that's going to turn into a more dynamic work pool to draw from to hire more doctors that are trained here in Brooklyn and stay here in Brooklyn. And even if they're trained in other places, they want to come back to Brooklyn where they were born and raised, the community that raised them to help serve their community. Because there's nothing like working and living where you grew up. You know, you see the people you're helping save the people that raised you.
And that idea follows through with your company. Well, you co-founded the company. Tell me more about the Complete Health Ventures, a company that you've co-founded.
So, Complete Health Ventures are models to inform, inspire, and mentor. So, like I said, we have a human resources problem. We need to have more doctors from our community, children, kids from our community becoming doctors. When I was going through my process of medical school, uh, college, medical school, I didn't know the process. Like I said, I stumbled my way through it. Now, back in those days, the internet wasn't as robust as it is now. But even if it is, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and there's small details in managing this complex pathway. So we help develop or create this company to help those students that are don't even know that they have the potential to do this, and exposing them to the various healthcare fields to show them what's possible, and also guiding them through the process. Also, I wanted to connect to our community a lot better. When I was a resident doctor at Kings County Hospital, you know, I was in the primary care clinic. A lot of patients weren't really communicating with me. They weren't asking me questions. They were nodding along. I didn't really care for that because, especially when I did my rotations at other hospitals, like in Manhattan, it was a completely different patient experience. They had a list of questions. They wanted to know what this lab does and everything. And I found that refreshing. It kept me on my toes and it helped me explain to the patients because it showed that they were invested in the process. So with Complete Health Ventures, we do community health talks. We host a community health talk at once a month on the third Wednesday every month called Vitals and Vision, where we bring in specialists from various medical fields and we have a panel discussion with an audience in person. And we inspire students to pursue healthcare careers, not just doctor and nurse, because a lot of our people in our community only know about doctors and nurses. There's a ton of healthcare professions that provide well-paying jobs and leads to great careers. So we have vet techs, we have dentists, we're doing today. I'm teaching one of my colleagues is teaching a nurse on the teaching a class on the various levels of nursing, and then we also expose the students. Like for example, today my colleague is doing the levels of nursing. Then tomorrow we're doing phlebotomy classes for the students, showing them how to put in an IV, showing them how to draw blood to get them excited to get tangible hands-on experience. So we do that with high school students. We also do it with college students also, because throughout my academic journey, I had academic advisors, but none of them went to medical school. None of them actually went through the process of becoming a doctor. So how can you advise someone to become something that you've never done yourself? And it's a different experience getting different information from someone that actually went through the process. And we also we're a business, so we contract with these schools, but that contracting bring consistency. So every Wednesday, a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a vet tech is going to be there, ready to teach your students and interact with your students. And we also build a network for these students, a community for these students, because not what you know is also who you know. When it's time to get a letter of recommendation, when it's time to ask questions, so we inspire them and we mentor them throughout this whole process. And that was the basis for our company. And we've been doing very well. Like I mentioned, that's our logo in the back.
Yes.
And the imagery signifies that what we're trying to do. We're trying to uplift others and uplift our community.
And I hear again the conversation on diversity and diversity in the healthcare, diversity in healthcare, diversity in the healthcare system. Why is it
You're
so?
glitching out.
Are you hearing me now? I'm breaking up.
Yeah, you were glitching out for a second.
I was glitching
Yeah,
out.
you're good now.
Okay. All right. So, why is it important? Why is it so crucial for our community to see healthcare professionals who reflect our own background?
Definitely. It's not just, we need more black doctors.
Hmm.
We do need more black doctors. We need more Hispanic doctors. We need more doctors that connect to our culture, that know us,
Hmm.
right? I remember a uh, a a patient was talking about smoking marijuana, and he was saying he was using backwoods or grabba, and one of my colleagues didn't know what that was, and I had to explain to them. It's the cultural connection we need also, not just color. We also need the cultural connection, the position that share a culture. And a lot of kids in our community don't think they can do what we do or become physicians or become professionals because maybe no one in their family was a doctor or a healthcare provider. And you need to build that confidence in people and students and show them. Unfortunately, in some communities, this is the standard: becoming a doctor, becoming a lawyer, becoming an engineer, and the people, their family push them, and that's great. But sometimes we don't have that in our community and our culture, and that gives us a setback, not only for our community economically, because these jobs are well paying, you can fund sustain a family. Also, it impacts the patient's experience, the patient's level of care. Um, what I've noticed is there are a lot of nurses in healthcare from our community, and the nurses connect to their patients a lot better than us as a physicians, and that's unfortunate. So I want us to have more connectivity with our patients, with our community, and there's sometimes a barrier between us and them. And hopefully by getting more physicians, more leaders, more healthcare providers, more professionals from our community, these children are going to jail and coming out and not being feel like they can't survive, and that's unfortunate. They shouldn't have went into jail or anything like that,
Hmm.
but we have to show them that it's possible, it's doable, and that's hopefully what my story is. Hopefully, inspires them to do what the other stories of our the people on our team does for them. Uh,
Yes, indeed, indeed, an inspiration against to many others, and I am pretty sure this is the fulfillment, and this is what is being fulfilled. And speaking about the Caribbean and the Caribbean community, um, there is a huge conversation between cultural healing practices and modern medical treatments. I recall growing up, I remember I hit my toe, right? And my dad, may God bless his soul and may he rest in peace, never took me to the doctor.
yeah,
He took me to the guy, an older healing person, right? Um, and had me dressed, right? That's there's a term dressed where they use different ointments, soft candle, um, iodex, right? And I recall the iodex, it was very, very black, right? And he pulled on my toes, and by a day or two, the pain was gone, right? So how do we tackle this conversation between the cultural healing practices and modern medicine? How do we begin this conversation?
Uh, so I'm talking from a personal standpoint, and not a. I am all for alternative forms of medicine, right? You can also call our form of medicine alternative, right?
Hmm.
Um, I always see myself as an advisor, right? I advise patients to take this medication. I advise patients to do this surgery or do this. The traditional medicine, the bush teas, the ointments. I'm fully open and aware of these practices, and I'm willing to go down that route with you because I'm one of your advisors, your naturopathic doctor or your tea specialist or whoever you have. They're another advisor to you because you're responsible. One thing I dislike about uh, patients when they come to me because they think I'm supposed to heal them, right? But I give them advice and they don't take it, right? It's a partnership. Yes, I'm giving you a medication, but the medication is not going to work unless you take it,
Hmm.
right? Nothing's going to work unless the patient takes it. But then when they don't take it and they expect to get better or you're not seeing improvement, when it comes to natural medicine or herbal medicines, go ahead. I'm fully open to it. If I see a cancer patient with cancer and they want to try something different, I say, okay, let's try this. But this is the based on my training and my knowledge, this is what the plan should be. This is what you should be doing. But it's your responsibility to make the decision if you want to try these alternatives or not. And I'm not saying against it or for it. Could be I had a patient with stage 4 breast cancer, and she said she doesn't want to and she doesn't want treatment. I said that's fine. That's your personal is your decision,
Preference, yes.
preference, and there's nothing we can do. Let's control the pain for you and go on with that. There's patients that you know have uncontrolled blood pressure. They said if their blood pressure is slightly uncontrolled, they want to take teas and drinks. Fine, go ahead. Let's give it a few months to see if it works. If they come back to me still with high blood pressure, I said, this is kind of dangerous. You can have a stroke. You know, why don't we start some medication to help you? If they say no, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'll document that I explain the process to them, the risks and benefits of taking the medication, the side effects, and if they want to go down that road. But I will strongly advise them to try these things. Right? There's some patients I remember during the time of COVID. I'm not a great proponent for the COVID vaccine. I had to take it when I was in my training, but there were some patients. They were young, healthy. They said, "No, I'm just going to take garlic and try other remedies." I said, "That's great. I'm not going to push a vaccine on you." But there were some patients, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, uncontrolled diabetes, like A1Cs in the 20s. I said, "No, you have to take this vaccine." Like I even though I'm not a strong proponent of vaccine, I pushed it on them because there's some patients that they need this stuff, and and because I was from the community and was connected to them, and because I'm not a strong proponent of the vaccine, when I did push it, it meant more than someone that kept on giving it to everyone. So I'm all for herbal and remedies. I not just herbal remedies. There's also diet and exercise and foods that you eat. Medicine, food is a medicine, and I love the idea, and I always like to go back to that because I had a great experience when I was in training of this 25-year-old male. He came in and he had pre-diabetes. His A1C was 5.6, the borderline. Well, no, it was what around what 6.4 or something like that. He was pre-diabetic, almost borderline touching diabetes, and he said, "No, I'm not going to take it. I want." My mentors told me to. My attending physicians told me to start him on a medication called metformin. I was about to write him the prescription for that. He said, "No, I'm not taking that medication." He said, "I just now moved to Brooklyn. I've been eating. I haven't been eating right. I haven't been exercising like I used to. I want to get back on working out and eating right and see what happens." He came back in 3 months, and his A1C was 5.6. It went from 6.4 to 5.6. It amazed me because it was the first time I saw it that diet and exercise fixed it fixed his problem. It actually did something without us giving them medication, and that should be the first treatment option for all patients: diet and exercise. Eat right, exercise, get out your house, walk around, see the sun. You know, if you want to try the herbal remedies, the teas to lower your blood pressure, to lower your sugars, go ahead. Now, if that same patient would have came back to me after trying these things and his A1C was 6.8, that's diabetic. That's when I would have been more aggressive, and say, "Hey, let's start this medication on you." So there's a place and a time for all modalities. We just have to be open to both. I'm open to the herbal remedies, the teas, the exercising, the diet, the food as nutrition as a medicine. But you also have to be open to traditional medicine, or what we call traditional medicine, the medications. And also, I don't like the fact that a lot of the medications that we use or we give patients, they're on it for the rest of their life. The medication should be used as a crutch to get off of them. If you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or obesity, whatever, if we're giving you a medication, we should be giving you that medication in hopes that you're using it as a crutch to get back to a healthy state through diet and exercise. That you can lower your medications and eventually come off of them. Unfortunately, some doctors, they put you on a medication and they keep you on that medication for the rest of your life. I'm sorry for going so
Is there no that this was excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. No, not at all. This is a must-have conversation, and I am thankful, immense thanks, for you gracing Caribbean Focus with this vital information. And is there enough studies on herbal remedies? You mentioned you've had patients who, again, with diet and exercise, you see a change in their lab. When you redo their labs, you see a change. Is there sufficient evidence to rely on herbal remedies, or is there sufficient evidence to prove, or studies that shows the effectiveness of herbal remedies?
so I'm not aware of the studies. There may or may not be studies out there on the effective efficacy of these medications or these remedies. Uh, Unfortunately, medicine is a business. Pharmaceuticals is a business, and the pharmaceutical companies don't want to invest in these studies that prove or disprove these remedies because it's not profitable for them. Um, how can I put it? I'm not aware of anything. There are doctors that are trained in this. Like they
Yes.
specialize in non-traditional modalities,
Hmm.
non-traditional medicines, and they're more in tune with the literature and the
And
research.
the studies. Okay, great. And again, your response, and also the fact that you have patients, again, who do try herbal remedies together with diet and exercise, is sufficient. Is a sufficient response to actually see the effectiveness of herbal remedies versus the modern medication. And as a physician,
Hold on.
yes,
One
please.
thing I like to add: even if some patients are using these herbal remedies, they're using the teas. But if they're continuing to eat the wrong things and not exercise and live a sedentary lifestyle, eventually they're going to need the medication. So they're counterproductive things that they're doing. They're saying these herbal remedies is not working or this medication is not working, but they're not working for themselves. And
Mm,
that's something that really frustrates me sometimes as a
mm.
physician. People don't want, I can give you an example. I had a patient
Yes.
when I worked at Kings County, uncontrolled diabetes. I saw her in the clinic. We had a lengthy conversation of eating right. Her numbers are uncontrolled, and she was a really lovely elderly woman. I think she was Grenadian, and we talked, we laughed, and then I said, "You got to eat right. I'm gonna have to increase your insulin. We're gonna check it and check your A1C in 3 months." And she left. I left. Luckily, it was my lunchtime, so I went outside to get lunch. Um, Unfortunately, it's a KFC, Popeyes right across the street from the hospital, from the clinic. I'm waiting at the stoplight to cross the street to go back to the hospital, and I see my patient standing right next to me. I say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then I look in her hand, and there's a Popeyes bag, and then, like my heart just sank. I said, "We just had this conversation." She said, "Dr. Blackman, I'm hungry." I saw.
Right.
That's what sometimes.
And that sometimes happens with the gym too, right? You go, you work out, and then I saw on is it on Remsen? Yes, I believe. At first there was a T-Mobile store, and then now there's a Buffalo Wings, like, and it's right across from the gym. And the thing about it is that when you work out and you leave the gym, you're hungry. You're not waiting to go home and make that protein shake or to stop by and get a salad. You could walk, it's right across the street from the gym. Like, why would that business, be so tempting, to do something and tempt others. But then again, I think you're speaking on this ability to of self-control, right? So that chicken place could be right across the street from the gym. You need to look the other way, and put your health first.
Yeah, you have to take responsibility for your health. Do you want to live healthy with your grandkids, or do you want to, unfortunately, pass away young? And these are these small decisions, everyday decisions, is what makes you healthy. It's not the big dieting or meal prep or all these it's small decisions every throughout your day that helps you keep you healthy. And like I said, a lot of patients, they come to me and they say, "We want make us healthy. Give us some medication, give us something to make us healthy. Do something." And I can only do so much. And it's frustrating when your A1C is not getting controlled and I'm trying my best, but you're not helping me. You just expect me to get you healthy. You're the one that's supposed to be, you're the primary person to make yourself healthy.
And you speak on diabetes, you speak on high blood pressure. What are some of the most pressing health issues you are seeing that's affecting our Caribbean population today?
So diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. Those are the big three.
Hmm.
High cholesterol. Those are the big ones. Um, every time. So when I did my training, when we first met, I was working in the clinic. I worked in the clinic sometimes, and I worked in the inpatient admission, the inpatient side of medicine when you get admitted to the hospital. Now I do that full time,
Hmm.
inpatient. I don't do outpatient anymore. So when the patients come to the hospital, uncontrolled disorders, there's always 3 or 4 disorders that always on their disorder list. High blood pressure, uncontrolled high blood pressure most of the time, diabetes, obesity. Everyone is obese or overweight, and then high cholesterol. And those 3 things can lead to a myriad of other health issues. And it starts with diet and exercise. A
Hmm.
lot of our foods are not as healthy as they can be. And as a Guyanese, I eat a lot of roti, a lot of dal puri, a lot of dumplings and stuff like that. I understand our culture, I understand our food, and I understand how good it is. And it's soothing sometimes. I just not ate some we call metem for breakfast, and that's like big dumplings and saltfish and eggs. That's a big breakfast. So I'm gonna try not. I'm not. I don't eat lunch. So I don't eat. I make breakfast and I eat dinner. But we have to everything in moderation.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation. That's my 2 cents into all this thing. If you want to eat, don't eat the huge meals. Smaller plates, smaller portions. Stretch it out throughout the day. Eat multiple small meals throughout the day. Stuff like that. But you know, when I see patients at 300-400 pounds, diabetic, uncontrolled high blood pressure, uncontrolled diabetes leads to kidney disease, leads to end-stage renal disease, leads to amputations, and these things are killing our people slowly too. It's
You
horrible.
mentioned the diet, which is a staple in Caribbean in the foods. Um, can genetics play a part in in obesity and also certain medications? Um, because personally, I had an experience where there was a specific uh, birth control that I was using, and it I had this artificial appetite, right? Because in fact the ingredients in there was synthesized and artificial. It made me artificial too. So does genetics and certain ingredients and components in medications connect to this obesity issue?
Definitely. So genetics play a huge role, right? That's what uh, genetics plays a huge role. It's your physician's responsibility, OBGYN's responsibility as far as the OCPs, the birth control medication that you're receiving, to explain to you the side effects of these medications. Because there are side effects to all medications. Every medication have a side effect. It was her responsibility to explain to you, his or her responsibility to explain to you these side effects and help you prepare for these side effects. So if and genetics, sometimes it is genetic, but I've been seeing there's also bad habits. So
Hmm.
it might be genetic. So say for example, your family all they eat is fried chicken every day. You want to be healthy, but everyone around you is eating fried chicken every day.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, you're hungry too, might as well take a piece of fried chicken.
Right.
But then you see your family down south or in the Caribbean, and they they're the same family, but they're thin. It's
Hmm.
also environment. So genetics and it also the environment plays a major role. If everyone around you is fat or obese, you have to look: is am I eating the same foods as everyone around me? Am I living the same lifestyle as everyone around me?
Hmm.
There are some people with bigger bodies, like
Right.
and that's so. I also told my patients this, and I don't know if I remember telling you this. There, women carry, we judge, or we diagnose obesity, overweight on our BMIs, body mass index. But
Yes.
some people, especially women, carry weight differently. Might have bigger frames, larger breasts, larger behinds. Some people carry weight differently. So me personally, I don't view the BMI as a good predictor of health.
Hmm.
It just gives you the diagnosis, but what really helps is your cholesterol levels.
Okay.
Your cholesterol is a healthy level,
Hmm.
and that sometimes genetics play a huge role in that also. So I've had patients, the calculations show they're morbidly obese, but their cholesterol levels are excellent, right? They'll see women, the BMI shows they're obese, but it's very curvy. They're very tall, very curvy, and I think they're perfectly healthy. They're perfectly fine.
Hmm.
So it's you could be overweight based or obese based on BMI calculation, but you're not unhealthy.
Right.
Are you unhealthy? Is that the issue?
So then
And
I'm so sorry. So then there's another conversation on what we're using the BMI. What are we using the BMI to pretty much to pretty much look at ourselves, right? Look at, as the women that you're describing, how is that BMI compared, maybe to other ethnicities, or how is that BMI standard, or is there like, are we using the wrong standard? And this is what I wanted to get at. Are we using the wrong standard or the wrong code to weigh against women, Black women, right? Afro Caribbean women who most of the times do have a different framework.
Definitely. So like genetics plays a role in your frame. Right? If your mom or father was a big person, you're gonna be a big person.
Mm-hmm.
My son is tall because I'm pretty tall.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I the BMI is a problem, but it's not. I would prefer using the BMI when we do use the BMI as a screening tool, right? It does. It's not saying it's good or bad. We just look at it and say use it as a screening tool to say we need to look at you a little bit harder, right? If you fall within the limits, that's fine. Move on. If you're obese or overweight, maybe we screen you a little harder, right, to make sure that you're not unhealthy. Because if you
Yes.
have a high BMI and you're healthy, forget it. We don't just continue to monitor you. If you have a high BMI in your labs, you have diabetes, your high cholesterol, you have uncontrolled blood pressure, then that obesity that were found with BMI, that proves that there's issues going on with you. So if you lower your BMI, that can help these other issues also.
Other issues. And doctor, for our viewing and listening audience, BMI would be the body mass index. And could you explain how that is being measured?
Your height and your weight. There's a calculation we use based on your height and your weight. You're supposed to fall in between certain numbers. 18.5 to 25 is considered normal. 25 to 30 is considered overweight. Anything greater than 30 is considered obese.
Hmm.
35 plus hypertension, obesity, high cholesterol is considered morbid obesity, and everything over 40, BMI over 40 is considered morbid obesity. And when you're 35 plus comorbidities or greater than 40, you can get bariatric surgery. You're qualified for surgery.
There's just so much to unpack here because, then there's these other, as you talk about surgeries, then there's other, uh, I should say, ways that we could target weight loss. Right now, we have Ozempic, which is now taking over our living space. And then you have the gastric sleeve, I believe, right? Where, and I've heard stories of individuals actually having this done and actually gaining back the weight because they're unable to control their appetite even with the surgery. And as you say, every medication, they do have side effects, and I believe you would say the same for these other alternatives in losing
Definitely,
weight.
definitely, you can lose it quicker and fast or slow and steady. I prefer. I believe the slow and steady approach wins the race, long term for your goals.
Hmm.
Through diet and exercise, natural diet and exercise, you can use these medications as a crutch to help you get to the weights and size that you want very quickly. But these medications have been used for diabetic patients. These are where these medications come for diabetes, and we just noticed that, oh wow, this patient is losing a lot of weight in addition to losing the controlling the A1C. And
Yes.
that's when they started using it as a weight loss medication. But these medications have been thoroughly studied for this specific reason. So I've seen patients come into the hospital with acute pancreatitis for these medications. We don't know what these medications are going to do for in non-diabetic patients over the long run, right? And these medications are used for patients not only for diabetic patients, they're also used for patients with heart failure. And the more we're using these medications for cosmetic reasons, well, some people actually need these medications to help reduce their weight, but some people need these medications for their diabetes, for their heart health. and we're using it up for cosmetic reasons. For patients want to be thinner.
Yes.
So and patients that really need it are struggling to get the medications,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
So and we don't know the long term effects of these medications. And what happens when you stop taking the medications?
Hmm.
Are you gonna be on this medication for the rest of your life? Because like I mentioned, most of these patients, it's give me a pill, give me a shot. That's not gonna last unless you're taking this pill and shot for the rest of your life. You need to start developing the discipline and start developing healthier habits. Unfortunately, people don't want the healthier habits. They want to give me the shot and I'll take a couple of pieces of chicken wings.
And I wanted to, as we reach towards the closing of our interview, I wanted to just briefly go back to your leadership role, and with the advice that you're giving to our viewing and listening audience. What are some of the advice, or what goals are you championing to ensure students have the same educational opportunities that you had? What are some of the motivation, and this is definitely the doctor's orders that you're giving us, but what are some of the motivation that you hope to inspire, to ensure that students have the same educational opportunities that you had?
Okay, this is health wise or career
And
wise.
that is as you, as a leadership, as the board leadership, and the board chair for Kingsborough Community College Foundation.
So, uh, as a current board chair of the Kingsborough Community College Foundation, my one of my goals is reconnecting to the community. There's a lot of opportunities out there. Your network is your network. A lot of students don't have a network, and Kingsborough can be their network. So I wanted to connect them, not just to the board, because a lot of people don't. A lot of students, when I was a student, I didn't know who the chair of our board was at that time. And they don't know that there's a board that hands out various scholarships to the students, who connects, create opportunities for the students. I created an opportunity with New York Presbyterian and the nursing program at Kingsborough. We're doing such great work, and we want to show the students that we exist, and they can call on us, they can connect to us. I recently had a alumni mixer where a lot of the board members came, the president Suri Deutsch, the president of Kingsborough Community College attended, and students came, and we reconnected them on a personal level. So when it's time to ask questions, to look out for a job interview, we have this network that we're building, this community that we're building. And the advice I would like to tell students and the community is connect, reach out. It's okay, especially if the organization is putting out extending a hand to you. Make sure you extend the hand back. Come to the events that we're hosting. Connect. Don't come to the event and just stand in a corner. Come and be outgoing. Speak to people, because everyone there is invested in your success and invested in you doing well. Because if you do well and you shine bright, you'll have Kingsborough on your CV, on your resume. You'll have Kingsborough on your LinkedIn profile, and we look good, and that helps build our reputation, our brand, and that helps the next generation coming behind you, because that shows that Kingsborough produces an excellent product, excellent students, excellent employees, excellent leaders.
Dr. Blackman, what is the legacy you hope to leave for this and the next generation of Caribbean, Afro Caribbean, Caribbean Americans, in the community and worldwide?
So I had a difficult journey. I was a non-traditional student. I took a non-traditional path. I hope uh, that my activities in the community and the things that I do and say, the next generation have an easier time. Because I've noticed that I want the same opportunities and everything else that comes along with a good life, a good family that my children are going to have for every child in the community. And I think that's possible because we all come from beautiful islands, beautiful community, good people, good-hearted people too. And the culture, some of the negative cultures or things that happen here in New York and in Brooklyn, have changed that and skewed that that culture, that Caribbean culture of hard work, of dedication, of family, of community, of your your whatever religion you practices to the fullest. Be involved in your community and loving one another. Um, I want to uplift people that don't think they can do it. People that like I was, that I didn't know if I could become a doctor. Looking now, everyone's saying I'm Dr. Blackman. But back when I was struggling and didn't
Mhm.
know how to get to where I'm at today, I want to be that person that I needed, that came and showed me the way. And the internet is great, but it's nothing like having someone in the community to help you along that path. And even if you fail, you always try,
Yes.
right? Because you're gonna. One of the things I teach to all the students when I give a class, when I do one of my talks, is you're gonna fail. I start out with that. I said you're gonna fail, but how do you react to that failure is how what determines your faith and your future.
And you are indeed bridging that gap, Dr. Blackman. And for our listening and viewing audience who wants to get more information on your company, more information in getting in contact with you, may you please share your information?
So CompleteHealthVentures.com is the website we have, and we on Instagram or Complete Health Ventures. So for any high schools or colleges that are interested in us coming by and doing workshops, you can go ahead to the website. And our Vitals and Vision workshop health talk series is the third Wednesday every month. We just had one on PTSD and mental health in our community that I sat on about a week ago. And the next one is coming up. I believe we're taking a break for the Black Men's Health Festival. One of my colleagues is having something called the Black Men's Health Festival in June, and then in July, and in June we're having the next Health Talk series. So if you go on the Instagram page of Complete Health Ventures, my colleagues, his company is called Heart, Body, and Soul.
Mhm.
Christopher Williams, Heart, Body, and Soul. We host the Vitals and Vision workshops, health talks, and we love to have the community come out, ask questions. We usually have a healthcare provider, we have someone from the community. We just have we're growing, and we have a community. We're building a community of people that want to have this knowledge, that want to have this connectivity. Because I don't think you should only see your doctor inside the hospital or your healthcare provider inside the hospital or the clinic when things are really bad. Come out to our Visions and Violence talk, speak to a healthcare provider in person on a personal level, and gain some knowledge, gain some direction in mental health, obesity, hypertension, diabetes. We had a great cardiologist come out, Dr. Matthew Jones. We want to connect to the community, and this is the venue that we're trying to build to do that.
Okay, and again, it is completehealthventures.com.
Yes, one word.
Okay, one word, complete.
All together.
Yes, put
CompleteHealthVentures.com.
together, completehealthventures.com.
And then the
Um,
IG is where we post the flyers for the Vitals and Vision.
Very good. Okay. So for my listening, viewing audience, wanting to get some more information on the company and how to get in touch, how to also, you mentioned the mixer, with some information about the mixers and any events, all of that information can be found on
Yep,
completeventures.com.
yep. On complete, like I said, on the Instagram, Complete Health Ventures, or on the website, CompleteHealthVentures.com.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Dr. Blackman, I would like to thank you so very much for joining us here on Caribbean Focus. Uh, your incredible dedication to the health and education of our people, it's very, very well welcome. It's very well seen. And I want to thank you so much for um, giving our listening and viewing audience the doctor's orders. So that's the doctor's orders for you. Make sure that you take it every day.
Definitely.
So I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Blackman, and I want to thank you for my viewing and listening audience for tuning in. And Dr. Blackman, I wish you all the best. And I hope, I mean, this conversation is so inspiring, so enlightening, and it is very important, right? It's said that health is wealth.
This.
Health is wealth, and you are needed in the community. And I hope to have you on again as we continue to talk and share with our audience information that is vital to their health.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
You are most welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you again to my viewing and listening audience for tuning in. This has been Caribbean Focus. Be well.
Good day.